There are certain discoveries in agriculture that feel almost unfair in how simple and effective they are. Every grower eventually hits that wall where irrigation becomes a constant battle. Too much labour, too much evaporation, and too many losses during heat waves. I hit that point during one of the driest seasons I have ever experienced. I watered morning and evening, yet the soil still baked under the sun. It felt like the land was rejecting everything I poured into it. But then, through a trail of old agricultural notes and historical references, I stumbled on a technique so old that most modern growers have forgotten it. It was used in ancient Persia, in parts of North Africa, and even among indigenous farmers on continents far apart and cultures unrelated. They all relied on a method that captured moisture without pumps, hoses, or modern infrastructure. The best part is that this technique can outperform irrigation in small-scale farming because it traps water directly in the root zone. It's simple, nearly foolproof, and honestly, it changes the way you think about farming in dry lands. The reason ancient farmers created moisture traps is because irrigation alone wastes enormous amounts of water. Early civilizations learned quickly that the majority of water poured onto bare soil never reaches the roots. It evaporates, it runs off, or it disappears into the subsoil where crops just can't reach it. Even farmers living near reliable rivers understood that water was just too valuable to waste. So they built what we now call subsurface moisture traps. These weren't complicated structures, not at all. They were pits, trenches, depressions, buried vessels, or, layers designed to pull humidity from the air, hold rainfall when it came, and store dew in the soil. A good moisture trap doesn't just hold water. It slows down every process that normally dries out the soil. That means cooler temperatures below the surface, reduced evaporation, and stable humidity around plant roots. It is really the opposite of irrigation. Instead of sending water from the top down, it works from the soil upward. The ancient moisture trap works by forcing water to stay underground, where plants need it most. The most reliable version I used is based on a technique common in arid regions thousands of years ago. Farmers dug pits where they planned to plant, filled the bottom with organic material, covered it with soil, and planted directly above it. That buried layer acted as a reservoir. Whenever it rained, even lightly, the loose organic matter soaked it up like a sponge. When humidity rose at night, the cooler underground temperatures caused condensation within the pit. And during drought, that stored moisture rose slowly toward the roots. This method works because soil biology, temperature gradients and organic sponges all work together underground, without exposure to sunlight. If you speak to long-time desert growers, you still hear about planting crops above buried wood, leaf matter, or decomposing biomass because it holds water for weeks longer than exposed soil. A practical example is simple enough for any grower to try. You dig a pit that fits the planting area, whether it's a small basin for a squash plant or a trench for a row of corn. At the bottom, you add a mixture of soaked wood chips, chopped plant material, old leaves, or partially decayed compost. So you cover it with soil, firm it gently, and plant above it. The buried organic matter, well, that becomes the heart of the moisture trap. As it decomposes, it forms a network of channels that catch and hold water. Over a few seasons, the soil becomes permanently softer and more hydrated. Moisture traps become more effective when shaped to collect natural rainfall, dew and runoff. Ancient farmers rarely planted on flat ground. They used micro-landscapes where each plant sat in a slight depression that funneled water toward it. Even in climates with almost no rain, these small bowls captured dew at dawn. This is where the survival aspect truly emerges. When everything dries out, moisture traps harvest water from sources too subtle for the naked eye. Anyone growing in drought-prone regions can adopt this by shaping their planting beds as shallow basins or half-moon terraces. The idea is to slow the movement of water so the soil absorbs every drop. One of the most striking examples of efficiency came from a test I ran with two identical squash plants during a dry stretch. One sat on level ground and received hand watering every 2 days. The other sat in a depression with a buried moisture trap beneath it and no supplemental water. After 20 days, the unwatered plant held the same vigour and leaf thickness as the irrigated one. The difference lay entirely underground, where the trap kept moisture locked in place. Moisture traps also regenerate the soil in a way irrigation never can. When irrigation is the primary strategy, soil compacts over time. Minerals leach out and beneficial fungi retreat deeper. A moisture trap, reverses this process. The decaying organic matter becomes a long-term nutrient source. Fungal strands spread through it, linking the surface roots with deeper layers. Earthworms gather to feed on the decaying material, creating channels that further improve water retention. This is, in fact, the same system indigenous farmers relied on when they buried fish scraps, plant residues, or rotten wood beneath their crops. They weren't just fertilizing, they were building underground sponges that protected their harvests against unpredictable weather. Anyone wanting to harness this method can start small. A single planting pit is enough to show immediate results. Over time, you can build connected trenches through the garden that act as moisture highways beneath the soil. Even livestock keepers with access to bedding straw can use decomposed manure straw mixtures as the reservoir material, turning waste into a permanent moisture shield. This ancient moisture trap stands as one of the most practical lessons history offers to modern growers. It captures water without machinery, shields roots from heat, feeds the soil, and ensures plants survive even during brutal droughts. If you apply it correctly, the results speak for themselves. Less watering, stronger crops, and soil that holds its structure no matter the season. If you found this guide valuable, make sure to subscribe to the channel, share the video with others who study old methods, and help keep these techniques alive for anyone trying to grow food in a changing world.